Hello, friends, and welcome to the Noclip podcast, episode 54 of the Noclip podcast. And today we are talking about Project Zomboid. I know you were waiting for us to talk about Activision. We actually did a whole podcast about Microsoft's acquisition of Activision, but it's on the Patreon-only feed. We did it as a little bonus because we had already set this one up. So if you want to go listen to that one, although this will be going up 3 or 4 days after the Microsoft acquisition, and Gary Whitta earlier today tweeted that that's not going to be the biggest news of the week, and now I'm terrified. I don't know what.
No, what?
I know what
could
Jesse,
be bigger than that $70 billion?
What could be bigger? What could be bigger? Say one thing that could be bigger than Microsoft acquiring Activision in the video game space. Okay, Knack 3, Knick Knack Paddywhack. Can't wait. Frank Howley, what could be bigger than Microsoft's acquisition of Activision?
Spawn coming to Fortnite.
There we go, baby.
That's all he cares about. You were just a broken record.
When are we going to do that? When's Noclip going to cover Spawn?
Unbelievable. I know, you're right. I get a similar vibe from Legacy of Kain from Spawn. Like that's the eyes or something.
They both have capes. They've both been cast down to hell. They both want revenge. They're both from the 90s. It's the best. I think there was a synergy of like Legacy Kain got announced. I was starting to get into Spawn. I was like, oh, this bounces off each other. I'm into it.
Yeah, they have a similar kind of weird 90s energy. There's green involved. Who knows? So yeah, we're not here to talk about the Microsoft acquisition of Activision or insert other big news here. We are here to talk about a game that came out almost 10 years ago that I didn't even hear about until about 2 weeks ago, and now it's all I care about. Project Zomboid. But before we get to that, I'd like to remind you that this is an ad-free podcast that is supported entirely by our patrons. So if you would like to support us, fund our documentaries, and get access to a bunch of bonuses, including videos, bonus episodes about Microsoft and Activision, Discord access, and loads more, head over to patreon.com/Noclip. You can also check out 7 minutes of our Black Mesa doc, which is up there, just waiting for you to check it out. But yeah, Zomboid. So let's go back to the start on this, gentlemen. Somebody in the Discord suggested that Zomboid could be a cool thing to talk about, the Noclip Discord, and I was kind of like, and Jesse, you were kind of in there chatting as well, and I was kind of like, what is Project Zomboid? It's like such a weird name. I've never heard of this. What is it, and why are you talking about it now? What is it, Jesse, and why were people talking about it now?
Well, so it's an isometric zombie survival game where the goal is to die. There is no end goal where you win. The goal of the game is just to see how long you can make it until eventually you turn into a zombie or die for other reasons. And the reason people are talking about it now is because it got a big multiplayer update. Update 41, I believe, was the update that came out. And yeah, it's nobody loves anything more than turning something into a multiplayer game. And when you take a survival game and you turn it into a multiplayer game, come on, everyone's here for that. Everyone wants to play it. Super hot. So it's a fun time. I mean, the multiplayer adds so much to the game too. We'll get to that in a second, I'm sure.
Awesome. So yeah, I still have yet to play multiplayer, and I guess this was a game that was, what was it? A tech demo was released in 2011. It had a sort. It was like pre-early access. It had its own early access thing, and then eventually came to was a Steam early access in 2013. You have down here. So like, I guess a lot of people had played it over the years, and it's one of these pockets of gaming that I literally had never saw. And then the minute I Googled the game, I looked it up on Steam, I was like, oh my God, this is 100% a game that I would have wanted to play in high school or like in college or like 5 years ago or now. So I had never played it. Jesse, you had played it back in the day. Frank, had you ever played it?
No, I only played it just over the holiday break after it broke big.
Right, so you're fresh to it too. So yeah, I guess if I was to add on to Jesse's explanation, it's the art style is kind of like The Sims in a way or something. It's like isometric, very pixely. Everything's on a grid. It's a very like grid-based game where you can see the grass and you can see how big the house is and you can see the roads and everything is like lined in a way that it should be. But it's vast and it's super systemic. So it's kind of like, imagine anything in the game that you can interact with or that can interact with something else. And if you think, I wonder if I could interact this with this, then the chances are the developers added that like 6 years ago. Like it just seems like it is the most complex, emergent sandbox for you to try and survive a zombie apocalypse in. So yeah, Jesse, you could talk us about some of like the top level stuff that you do in this game.
So there's like stats that you try to keep track of, but you don't see them in a meter the same way you would in The Sims, right? That's something I really like about this is some stuff will just kind of spring up on you. So your goal is to survive, and so that you have to eat food, you have to drink water, you have to take care of your health and not get bitten by the zombies, but you have to gather resources from different places. You spawn usually in a house or just in an enclosed area with cabinets that you rummage through looking for, again, food, but also weapons, stuff like, knives, and you can eventually build your own weapons as time goes on. There's construction elements, there's farming. Like Danny was saying, there's so many things that you can do in this game that it's just, if I were to describe it, it would be the whole podcast. There's there's electronics, there's metalworking, like when you make a character, you get to pick your class, which is so interesting. Like, or not your class, but your occupation before the apocalypse took place.
What's your go-to? I literally pick burglar every time so I can hotwire cars. That's the only thing I care about.
That's smart. It's always firefighter for me. I feel like they got the most stuff going on there.
Yeah, so like but like you're talking about, like, yeah, you can like rummage through the cupboards to look for items. And what I didn't realize was like just even how deep each of these individual things is. Like, first of all, the cupboards are like, you can also use them for storage. You can break them apart and turn them into, move them somewhere else and rebuild them. Then what's in there is like you can have normal fresh food, which you kind of have to eat right away. The refrigerator's on, but like a couple of days or weeks into your time playing in this game, the electricity will get shut off, and then suddenly all the refrigerators turn down and the televisions aren't on anymore, so you can't watch television, which gives you stat boosts. Or if you're depressed, you can tune in like the Animal TV show and it'll make you feel better. The radios are used for like hearing what the weather's going to be like, or if there's these like helicopter events that turn up and make all the zombies super pissed. The cupboards can be full of canned food, which is great, but you better have a can opener to open the canned food. And then once you do, it has like no lower nutrition than the fresh food. Looking for your first weapon is really important because you can't kill zombies without a weapon. And if you can't find like a knife or like a baseball bat, sometimes you can just use like an air fryer and just like swing that and it'll work. Like
the griddle,
the clothes that you wear, you can like change. You should go outside, but it's raining, so like you should bring a towel so you can dry yourself off. If you find an umbrella, I found an umbrella and I was like, oh, I wonder what I can use this for. I can probably like deconstruct it or something. And then I watched a video online of somebody during a rainstorm and they just used the umbrella. And it's like, oh yeah, of course, this isn't a normal video game. The umbrella is literally an umbrella. You can use it when it's raining and you won't get wet.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's
so
just like
things.
Everything about it's like so unbelievably like deep and rich. Everything is like, but not like crazy. It's not like you're stuck in it's not like an interface nightmare. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's not like your menus and menus and menus of stuff. It's all fairly like you're always kind of looking at your character as they slowly get depressed. Frank, what's your experience been like playing it? Right, because you're kind of coming in fresh like me, jumping into the world and figuring out how to do it, which is one of my favorite times in a video game, is when you don't know what's going on and you're learning the ropes, as it were. How have your first couple of like games of it gone?
Yeah, I was really excited to play it because it blew up. It looked really cool. So we got in touch with a friend who had already been playing it for a few months, maybe, and he set up a server. He set the difficulty down all the way to easy. So I thought, like, okay, great, let's go in, have some fun. Like, we had great experiences with Minecraft and Valheim. This should probably be the same. And I think I died like 10 times in an hour, just being so surprised that if you get bitten, that's like pretty much it, you're done. And I couldn't believe it. Like, immediately I go in, I just make my character look silly with the mullet, and I was immediately, yeah, again, impressed with just all the contextual menus. I think one of the first thing I was curious of is I went to the toilet, and you can drink water from the toilet to refill your hydration. And I was like, oh wow, what else can you do? And then as we're playing the game with our friends, I always am a jokester when I'm playing games online, and I'm using like the shout commands, like just like as I would in World of Warcraft, yelling. And then my friends on voice chat are like, stop pressing that button. By you using shout text, that's your character in game is shouting, which is why all the zombies keep finding us. And I was like, oh crap. And then, okay, we're trying to rummage for supplies. We go into a house. My friends are opening windows, being careful. I'm just smashing windows. Again, just not realizing that the game is so hardcore. So everything I did attracted more and more zombies. But it was the kind of thing where it's like I started to respect the game more. It was like, oh, okay. And then I learned, yeah, if you get injured, you can rip off your own clothes, tie that as a bandage to stop the bleeding. And I do want to go back and play it more and more, but I just can't believe how deep it is with so many different scenarios and items already thought out.
Yeah, if you break those windows and then like you don't have shoes on, you like get glass cuts all over your feet, or if you don't like you have to like, there's also a command to like pick the glass out of the window frame so you don't like cut yourself in it. I had one where I was like trying to get, once I realized you could use cars, I was like, okay, well, I need to get a car. And then you get a car and you have to like look when you get in the car. First of all, the car door has to be like open. If it's not, you can like break the window, but then maybe the alarm will go off, so that's not good. Break the window, open the lock, go in. Then you have to like search like the glove box, and like this is all on menus, like little menus, glove box, and like look in the back seat or look on the ground, or if there's a dead body near the car, any of those things might have the key. The key might also be in the ignition, which I didn't check for the first 2 weeks of this game. If you have the skill, you can hotwire a car, but not all cars can get hotwired. Then once the car is ready, I guess most of the time I won't have any gas in it. So if it doesn't have gas, you have to siphon gas. And how you siphon gas is you have to find a gas canister in like a garage, and then find a car that has gas, and then siphon the gas and then bring it to you. And it's just like, it's all this nonsense where like I was running out of gas in this one, and one of the gas stations are still operable. So if you drive a car up to a gas pump, you can just fill the whole tank, which is amazing, because even if you're siphoning, gas from other cars, you'd have to siphon 3 or 4 cars maybe to fill up another car, maybe more. And I got there, and unfortunately I had in a previous character, because you can continue playing, you can spawn a new character within the world. Your character dies, turns into a zombie maybe, and then you can keep playing. But I previously broken into that gas station, so it was full of zombies. So I was just driving around honking my horn to try and get all these zombies to like follow me. And then I would like drive down the street really slow to keep them coming, like, come on. And then I was running out of gas though. So at a certain stage I panicked and I drove back around, and I ran out of gas like 20 yards from the pump. And I couldn't get over there. Another time I was driving I was trying to set up like a house in the woods, but it was kind of too far from town. I was using so much gas going back and forth. And, but I was just like not really paying attention, and I just like totally binned it and turned a corner thinking this was like a racing game, and it would like just let me turn the corner as fast as I wanted. And the car like did not turn. And I like smashed the like shit out of the car, hurt myself. It was nighttime. I had like no equipment. It was just like, no, all I did was crash the car. And now I'm like completely shagged.
It's so funny. You're so like perfectly describing what happened. You know, it's so vivid and so, but like, I know through playing it, all you were doing was like right click, left click, click an option. Like you're using like a word processor basically in terms of like the amount of interaction you actually have to do in some cases. And it's like, it's so vivid, but it really is like that. Like there is so much depth to it. And even when you're doing those very basic interactions to do things, it does feel like you're doing something really big, and there's so much tension. And yeah, I'm totally with you on this being so deep and good for that reason.
Yes, stuff can go wrong so quickly, and it's just so, and it's we've talked a lot about this with the arcane games, especially, right? Where these emergent games, where you have emergent simulations or just emergent gameplay happening, where you combine some things and the resultant combination is something unexpected or something novel or new that you couldn't have known was going to happen. And this game is just full of those moments. Everything is like a domino. Every choice you make has because there are so many systems involved in doing anything that can sort of end up in so many different ways. Things just go completely crazy and weird all the time, and you have to like plan for it. So you're leaving the house, well, I'm going to go foraging. And if I go foraging, it better be during the day because it'll be bright, so like a zombie doesn't come up behind me when I'm looking for like twigs in the woods or berries or whatever. And probably should do it when it's not raining because you can't hear the zombies as well if you do it that way. And I'll bring some food, but like not too much food in case I, get a bunch of stuff. And then when you're out there, you like, something happens, you bump into something or you find a car, and then suddenly you're going on some other journey, but you're like, oh, my character's getting depressed, so I need to like find a house and read a magazine or like spend more time outdoors. it's just like, it's like The Sims. It reminds me of The Sims, where it's like you have those levels of like the person, the character or whatever, but obviously the gameplay is this more, immediate danger almost all the time. Even if like now I was playing on normal mode at the start, and the zombie hordes can be fairly like intimidating, especially in some of the bigger cities. But I ratcheted it back to like survivor mode or whatever, or farming mode, or sort of easier mode. And even then, like you can't keep your your guard down, because like one bite and you're basically in trouble. So you gotta put on your I was wearing like loads of like armor, and then my character was just like, because it's in like
sweating
to death. Yeah, like needed to drink loads of water, was constantly overheated. Because it's set in like where is it? It's in Knox County, which is in Kentucky, I think.
Yeah.
And also we should mention the map is massive.
It's
like
fucking huge.
It's like multiple cities. I'm guessing they added these over time. Do you remember much about when you played this? Because you played this like 8 years ago, right?
Yeah, the first version of this was like super bare bones compared to what it is now. Not to say that what they were doing in the past wasn't still a good idea, but like you're saying, the amount of interactions.
Did it look similar?
Visuals wise, I believe it was a lot more pixelated than it is now, because there are like 3D models and stuff in this version, and I don't remember that from the original at all.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about, do you remember, what do you remember about those early days?
Yeah, I mean, it was 8 years ago, so it's all kind of blurry, but from what I remember, it was a lot more straightforward in its interactions. It was almost kind of like, I didn't have those moments that I'm having now. Like, I remember I played it the first time, and it was around the time that I kind of fell off of Minecraft. But I remember this thing I did in Minecraft where I was like, okay, if I put the sand in the furnace, that must make glass, right? Because like sand plus fire makes glass, right? So that makes perfect sense. So I did that, and I was like, holy shit, I'm a genius. This is the best game ever made. And Project Zomboid in 2013, I never had that moment. I never played that and was like, oh man, but now I have that all the fucking time when I'm playing this new version. It's crazy. Like, you get a map, and I used a pen to mark where my safe house was, but I put the wrong marker down. I used the circle. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll just erase the circle. No, it's a pen.
Oh, that's
you can't
so
erase
funny.
The pen, you moron.
Oh my
so like,
God.
Right? Like, that little thing made me go like, holy shit, this is the coolest game ever, dude. Like, you need to think about what you're doing all of the time. Like you were saying earlier, you climb through a window and there's glass, you get glass in your hand. How do you get it out? Well, you can pick it out with your other hand, but then you might cut your other hand. So what do you need? Tweezers. Like, of course you need tweezers. Like, but like, I didn't think that. It's a video game. My brain was like, yeah, just take the fucking glass out of your hand, idiot. It's like Far Cry 2. Just bite the bullet out of your arm and keep fighting. Whatever. Right. Unjam your gun. Get the sand out. Yeah. Oh,
that's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah, it's those like realizations that constantly keep happening. I will say that I think I've hit not that I've like fallen off. I think the plateau of realization is starting to kick in now, where it's a little bit more about the long game. So now I'm trying to figure out like farming and like water conservation and stuff like that. Right. Like I was like, oh, maybe if I put a bucket out when it's raining, and like, yeah, of course that works.
And it catches the rain. Like, of course it does. But like, you don't think that, right? Like, you're like, will this work? But like, no shit. Like, that's the real world. That's how water works.
Yeah, you instantly like start like thinking of new ways to, like, I got this house that was just outside of town, and I was like, well, Like, I wonder if there's a way I can like set up like an escape route. Like, I'll leave a window open on the roof, but then I don't have to jump off the roof. I wonder if there's a way you can like have like an escape route that's like not something a zombie could climb up, and you can like tie a bunch of rags together and make a rope.
It's so good.
It's like and every time that any of those things happen, it's just like this. It's one of these games like, yeah, it 100% like rewards that type of exploration. But yeah, it's kind of the ways in which it does stuff that video games don't do. Like you're saying, like picking the glass out of one hand and cutting the other hand. Like even the way it does what your character can perceive. So you're in video games you're used to enemies having like, view cones. Sometimes it's explicit, like in Metal Gear Solid the map has the view cone. But usually characters in video games, NPCs or enemies, you can see them before they can see you. Their eyesight distance for whatever reason isn't as good as yours, and also like you can stealth around them and stuff like that. Your character has a view cone in this game, so if you're like walking around, you can only really see what's in front of you. Yeah, so if there's a zombie behind you crawling up, you don't know unless you turn around. So sometimes I have to keep reminding myself that. Or if one of my favorites is if you reverse your car, you're only looking backwards. You don't, because you're
of course
you look around, so you don't see it. It's wild.
I think on that level, one of the coolest things about the game, like when you're making your character, like we said, you get to pick an occupation, but you also get to pick a bunch of traits. Now I usually just randomize it because I want to try weird things. I don't want to pick an optimal build. And one of them that I ended up doing had the deaf trait on there. Yeah. So when you're playing the game, like you're saying with the perception stuff, if you have the deaf trait, you cannot hear anything.
So you don't know if an alarm is going off.
Yeah, in a house
when you break into a house.
Exactly. So all you see is like 40 zombies come at you. That happened to me. That exact fucking thing.
Really?
Yeah. I went to a house and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll just rummage for stuff. It was like the second house I checked on this character.
Oh my God.
And I heard not a thing. And then I opened the door to leave and I was dead. I was so dead. It was like I didn't even turn into a zombie. I'm pretty sure I did, but I felt like I didn't. I was just getting eaten. It was hilarious.
That is crazy. That means you also can't listen to the radio or...
Yeah, so you get none of those stat boosts. You don't get to learn anything.
So you should be mentioned as well, when you're creating your character, you can take different perks or conditions or whatever that will have a plus or minus associated with them usually, and the more dramatic one is, then the more... Like, there's one like you freak out if you see a zombie and you probably get like 6 points taken off. So that means you can add positive points for up to 6 points. You have to hit like net neutral basically on your character, so you can take the sort of the sweet with the salt, as it were. That is absolutely crazy. But like even that, you're right. Like any other game, that perk would be one thing. It would be like one thing that changes the gameplay, but it doesn't. It has this sort of like domino effect where it touches absolutely everything. Like I'm trying to think what else you wouldn't be able to know. Like everything.
I guess you couldn't hear helicopters or gunshots in the distance. Right. Not that you should ever go towards those when you hear them, but...
So when I hear gunshots, I'm playing solo. I haven't played any multiplayer with this because I'm too scared. When I hear gunshots, have you ever seen... Because I've never seen any... There's no NPCs in this game apart from you, right?
As far as I'm aware, no. There aren't any other human players that you see, but the gunshots are like designed to... just liven things up, get the zombies moving, I guess.
Right. I had a car breakdown as well, or I had a car that was broken down and I had to replace its wheel, which seems like even that you can check on the car. Like if you go check on the car, you can like open the hood and check the car and see how it is. Like a map of the entire car, letting you know how each wheel, how good the brakes are doing.
How's the exhaust working out? Or do you need to switch out the spark plugs? Like you can see all that nonsense. And yeah, when you want to switch out the tire, you have to get the jack. Like we could just keep talking about this game and just going like, oh, I tried to do this one thing, and then I had to find 19 other items to do it. But that's what makes it so exciting, because like it didn't really click for me until a buddy of mine referred to this more as a roguelike. Like if you just look at it as a survival game, it's still good and you can view it like that and you're going to enjoy it. But I feel like if you look at it like a roguelike, you get less defeated when you die. Like you don't feel as bad about it because you're learning stuff. That's the fun of playing the game. Like we've been talking about this whole time. It's just been the conversation of like, how do I do this and how do I do that? And like, oh, I'm wet. How do I deal with that problem? I need a towel. Okay, well, now I have to look for towels. So learning that and playing over time and having new characters with new builds and new traits unlocks new ways of playing, and you get through that sort of slow, grindy beginning part faster and faster and faster because you know what to look for and where it's going to be because the map is consistent throughout each play, but I think the items appear in different locations. So there's a reason to keep doing that.
Yeah, like for instance, like it's like stuff is kind of where you'd imagine it to be, right? You do a lot of like rummaging through people's bathrooms for painkillers, or like if you want a gas tank, chances are it's in someone's garage, like that type of thing. But one of my favorite things is like, I don't know what the late game is like, or maybe, you know, when you get better, or if you're in a group, it makes more sense, or especially if you're playing online, I guess. But guns are like such a no-no in this game.
Yeah.
Because like, first of all, like none of your, unless you pick the cop, like, or like maybe a veteran or something, no one is able to shoot guns in this game. They're just like so inaccurate. They're like unbelievably inaccurate. You don't find that many bullets sort of like around, at least I haven't. Maybe if ever you go to the gun shop or something. But also like all they do is attract zombies. Like you fire a gun and suddenly there are like zombies from everywhere coming. So it's really funny to play a game where like I'm trying to like find the best possible melee. Like baseball bats are so good. Every time I find a baseball bat, I'm just like elated because they just like, it's almost like two shots. You just double tap someone and they're down.
Mm-hmm.
And then like they're, you know, it's that funny zombie game thing of like, oh, they're surrounded in, you know, they're covered in gold jewelry and they've loads of money and it's like useless. You know?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Like, at least I don't know what I can use it for. All the mental health stuff is great too.
Yeah.
You know? Like depressed and tired and like how it compounds. Like if you get an infection, like a non-zombie infection or something, and you're feeling sick, or you like break a bone and you have to like lie down for a couple of days and you've nothing to do. Like if you don't have any books or magazines or anything, or you spend too much time indoors, you get depressed as well. It's like, man, COVID is real in the world of Project Z.
So true.
What do you make? Was all that stuff in before, do you think? Do you remember any of that stuff back in the day? All that, because it's such an important part of it, all the health stuff.
I'm fairly certain a lot of the stat stuff was still there. Like a lot of you get depressed, you get queasy, you know, you need to keep a good check of your health. But I don't remember if it was as intricate as it is now and as connected. I don't remember there being as many things as well, like especially with your happiness meter that you don't see. To deal with that, there weren't as many items from what I remember. Like there's magazines in this one now and newspapers and obviously the radio and the TV. And the TV's a lot more detailed and you can switch the channels and adjust the volume so the zombies don't hear it outside. Stuff like that. Yeah, I don't remember there being too much, but I imagine over time, with it being early access, they've added so many things I haven't even seen yet.
Do you know a little bit about the development history of this? Because we had some folks as well jump into the Discord and talk a little bit about the folks who made this. It's kind of like it's a indie dispersed team, folks in like Canada, America, UK, further afield. The Indie Stone, is that the name of the studio?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A bunch of weird stuff happened to them as well. They had like stuff stolen at one stage. And do you know any of these stories?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that happened throughout the development that were like super awful headaches. The first one, and I think the most interesting in terms of like the landscape of indie gaming changing over time, was their original funding model was donations, right? Because like, how else would you pay to make a video game? Kickstarter wasn't ubiquitous at the time, so you needed to get money somehow. So how they were doing it was they were asking for donations on their website, and you would donate through PayPal and then eventually Google Checkout, because PayPal froze their accounts because they weren't actually selling anything. They were just getting money. The same thing happened, I think, to Notch with Minecraft pretty early on, but that was because he got a lot of money really fast. It wasn't to do with the donations.
They were like, what is this? Yeah.
Where's this guy stealing from banks? And then they tried Google Checkout because that was, a thing that was popular at the time as well. I don't even know what that is. I can't even remember what we were doing with that. But yeah, same thing happened where their funds were frozen, and eventually they got onto Steam Early Access, and that seemed to sort out most of their problems. But that was a pretty big hurdle they had to get over. The next one,
and then the other one was what was this? So the game was like the source code was stolen or something.
Yeah, so this kind of happened twice. Earlier, there was a different thing where the source code wasn't stolen so much as they had an alpha tech demo that they were giving out to people.
Okay.
People were checking it out, seeing what was up, and that leaked out to the public, and it was like a super early version of it. So it was kind of bad. But the worst version of that was later on. The developers had laptops that they were working on in their apartments, and the classic tale of I'll back it up later, and then tomorrow, and then the next day,
man.
and the next day. And a lot of their source code was lost on the laptops that were stolen from their home. Somebody broke in and actually took the laptops out like physically. So they lost a lot of work on the game pretty far into development, which is might be the reason why it's been such a long time coming for it to really pop off like this.
It's a crazy story for it to be in early access even this long, because you're kind of like, I mean, this is just a game that will be perpetually in early access, because like, what does a 1.0 look for this game?
Exactly.
Look for this game. You know what I mean? Like the joy of this game, like to me, this reminds me of like Dwarf Fortress or something, where it's a game where somebody should be adding to it forever. It's such an evergreen concept. I mean, this is the game people want to play when they, for me anyway, when I play games like State of Decay or Dying Light, like it's that type of like, oh, you're immersed in a real zombie world. And obviously this isn't a 3D game in that respect. It's not 2D either, but like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not like a game where you're swinging the camera around or anything, but like in terms of its simulation and its gameplay, it's orders of magnitude deeper than those games. Yeah, it's funny. It's like in a way, this is the reason we're talking about this is because this is 100% a game that I'd love to do something on, but like it's kind of like, Black Mesa ended.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
That game came out. It finished. They finished Zen. The game came out. They're done with it. It's over. This kind of feels like it's never going to be done. And then there's the mods and stuff, which is like a whole other. We haven't even talked about all the other like weird custom modes in it. It's a game that has had a modding community working on it for the best part of a decade. Have you done any of the mod stuff?
No, I haven't even touched any of it. Frank, have you done any of that? I feel like that'd be right up your alley. Get spawned in Project Zomboid.
No, that was one thing when we were selecting the server and even browsing servers. I was blown away by how many different like variations they are. I joined one server and it was about to download like 80 community add-ons. Like it felt like I was joining like a an old Counter-Strike server. I saw like there's even a toggle where you can have like 28 days later type like fast zombies, which I can't imagine how brutal that would be. So yeah, but I haven't touched the mods. I think I played it as vanilla as possible.
Yeah, there's shed loads of options in there too. Like I think you can turn those on by default just in the game vanilla as well. Or like I saw a video of somebody who had like at nighttime they were fast, like that type of one. And then they were in a house and the alarm went off and it was just like the most horrifying thing I've ever seen. Just complete and utter. Like it's bad enough running. Like I died. The first time I died was because I was just like running away from hordes and hordes and hordes of them. I was just too exhausted. I had too much shit, and then just slow down, and then eventually they just like overwhelmed me. But they're like clawing at me from a foot away for like 5 minutes. It was like I should just kill myself. So messed up. Absolutely mad. Yeah. So I guess that's Project Zomboid. I just wanted to jump on and chat to you both about it. I think it'll be a fun documentary. There's obviously some development history stuff there. In terms of gameplay mechanics, there's no shortage of like, how do you add anything to this thing now, right? Because like you add like a little, it's like a house of cards or something,
Yeah, I was just gonna say you're building out a house of cards that's gonna fall over. If you add toothpicks to this game, I'm telling you, it's gonna take 15 years to finish.
It's really smart though how because like the Dwarf Fortress problem was, the issue with that game getting why RimWorld kind of ended up blowing up as well is because of the graphics stuff, right? Where it's using those sort of ASCII graphics, and obviously right now they're working on adding graphics to the game. But like the reason why that game can get so systemic, and that game is arguably orders of magnitude more so simulation than this is, because it's doing like generational storytelling and like the cats have eyelids and they get drunk, like all that sort of stuff. But like one of the novel things about this is that whenever they add something, at least they only have to add like an icon in the inventory and then some sort of simple enough 3D representation, which seems like it maybe has, if it's a weapon, maybe it has more modeling to do for the different angles, but other than that, you know, you don't see the can opener, right?
I don't think so.
No. There's just a picture of a can opener. So they've sort of solved that problem as well. But I imagine, yeah, there must have been. I wonder what the thing they added, which like had the most knock-on effect, like something like the shouting or, you know, the temperature or something that just like completely made them rewrite half the game. Yeah, it's so interesting. Yeah, if you have any stories about Zomboid, please send them over, podcast@noclip.video. If you have any suggestions for how to cover it or who to contact or any of that sort of stuff. We've had some people who are involved in the project chatting to us in the Discord, actually. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, could be one for the future. Any final thoughts? You guys gonna keep playing it? Frank, yeah, are you still playing it? Or
yeah, I mean, I feel like we only had like 1 or 2 sessions with it. I do want to still get my like a giant group of friends together and try it. I was looking at their roadmap that they posted this month. So like for the coming year, their next 2 steps is the big update, the multiplayer thing was update 41. Update 42, they want to add hunting.
What?
So they want to have wild animals.
What?
And even in the
Nice.
so wild animals, and they even are talking about in the patch notes of like, we're going to be like wild animals are considered NPCs. So that's just phase 1 of the NPCs of the NPC stage. Stage 2, which will be update 43, is they're going to have NPCs in the game. And that potentially will be story events, survivors with like combat and stuff. So it's like, are there going to be antagonistic NPCs, people you can recruit? Like, I feel like, yeah, this is just this whole world of Zomboid is just getting started. It also makes me think if we cover it, like, will it be a Hades type thing? Like maybe once a year we check in with the Zomboid team.
Just in bed for the rest of your careers.
Yeah, like this is it. Yeah, like, or it's like, you know, like a World of Warcraft situation, like an online game that's just going to expand infinitely. Like zombies are a thing that are always around in video games. Like my, you know, all-time favorites like Resident Evil, but then like Dead Rising. And so now that there's this multiplayer sandboxy one, it's crazy to see that, you know, it went for me unknown for so many years, and now I feel like the hype is just now building and exploding. So it'll be cool to see it in the future.
I got a question about the multiplayer stuff, right? Because it looks like there was some multiplayer. Was it like mods maybe or something? Because it seems like what they added was 16-player multiplayer, dedicated servers, and co-op. So I wonder if the dedicated servers was the thing before. Jesse, do you remember it all? What?
I think it was peer-to-peer.
Okay.
It was just me and my buddy. So there wasn't like a bunch of random strangers walking around from what I remember.
Because I'm trying to see, could we set up a server? Like, how many people could you have? I'm seeing 32 people, but is that 32 concurrent? Because if that was the case, then that could be a thing we could do, like for patrons or something, just like throw together a... Because I know Valheim, you can have a bunch of people on the server, but it's the concurrent people that's the problem, not... you know, how many slots there are in total. I should look into that because that'd be fun. I'd love to do that. Like just do the whole thing. Yeah, and it looks like the whole map, because they had the multiple maps, but I guess they made all the maps together in the latest update as well, I think. That's super cool. Man, okay. Got Zomboid on the brain. I'm infected. Thank you both for Jesse, thank you for sharing Zomboid with me. I wouldn't have played it if it wasn't for you and all the folks in the Discord. So
of course.
Appreciate it, man. And thanks to Frank for jumping in. I'm going to look into that server stuff, see if we can knock that together. I kind of wish we'd done it for Valheim, actually, so that could be fun. But yeah, that's it for this week. Thanks so much. We're actually going to do another one of these posts, but we're going to do one on Black Mesa next week because the Black Mesa documentary is coming together really well, and I thought it would be fun. Frank has been capturing an insane amount of gameplay for that. We might be able to get Jeremy on as well because he basically edited the 2-hour, I don't want to call it an assembly cut because that sells it short, but 2-hour, like 90% complete cut of the Black Mesa documentary. I'm just writing the script for it at the moment. We're going to film somewhere cool. Might go on a road trip to film somewhere, like in Nevada, maybe, if we can get some mesas somewhere. Do all that madness. But yeah, we'll do that next week. So yeah, if you have any thoughts on Black Mesa, podcast at noclip.video. In terms of the documentary, the DMA doc has done gangbusters. We're super happy with that. Hotline Miami is up now too. Went up yesterday. People seem to really like that one. Black Mesa, Among Us, and Legacy of Kain in production. And then we have a bunch of other secret stuff, including the new channel, Noclip Crew, which will be coming next month. We're working away on stuff for that. If you'd like to support the podcast, fund our documentaries, and get access to all of our bonus episodes and the official Discord, head over to patreon.com/Noclip, at Noclip Video on all the Twitter stuffs and whatnot. I'm at Danny O'Dwyer. He's Frank Cowley. He's at Garasha. See, I did it myself. I didn't have to do it this week.
Thank you. I'm proud of you.
Absolute pleasure. Head over to youtube.com/noclip video to watch our documentaries and listen to this podcast on youtube.com/noclip podcast or wherever podcasts are sold. Jesse, what you got on for the rest of the week? What are you going to be playing?
Oh, well, Black Mesa. I gotta do something with Half-Life 1. I finally got to play it.
Yeah, so you've never played Half-Life 1, right?
Never.
That's beautiful. I cannot wait. We're going to have somebody who's played Half-Life 1 too much, somebody who has played Black Mesa a lot recently, and then someone who's going in super fresh. Frank, did you play Half-Life 1 like back in the day?
Yeah,
or?
my first experience with it, funny enough, I think it was the PS2 port, like when that came out in, I don't know, 2001 or something. And then finally when I got
Gearbox.
Yeah, and then finally enough when I got a decent enough PC, I played Half-Life Source, I don't know, 2005.
Oh, yeah.
And then I feel like I had revisited Half-Life again, like, I don't know, 5 years ago. Then in Black Mesa was my first time tackling the remake, and now I feel like I adore original Half-Life, but I think Black Mesa is like now the perfect rewrite. It's like, yeah, that's it. Like if you haven't played Half-Life at this point, it's a good place to dive into.
Yeah, it's in the conversation, which is really saying something considering like how much of a all-timer Half-Life is. We'll be talking all about Black Mesa and Half-Life next week. So until then, hope you have a great week. Hope none of you are acquired by Microsoft. We will see you next week. In any case, good luck.